Hi, so we're on to the third round of the expanding flower blanket. With this round, we're introducing some SC in the V of the stitches. These can be, I guess, a little bit tricky. Once you get the hang of it, you'll be fine though. It just takes a little bit of practice. So what I'm going to do now is look for one of the 2DC together cluster stitches from the previous round, any one. And so I'm going to join my yarn. I'm just changing colours, but I mean you could continue on with the colour from the previous round, which you'd be in the right stitch if that were the case. You wouldn't need to slip stitch anywhere. So anyway, I'm going to join this new yarn. You could do 2 chains, or you could do a standing stitch. It's really up to you. It doesn't matter terribly much. So I'm just going to do a standing double crochet in that stitch. Like so. So you can see there we've got that special stitch there that I've just joined my yarn into. So that's those 2 DCs together from the previous round, that stitch. And now I'm going to make another 2 double crochets in that same stitch. So now I'm doing 3 stitches, making 3 stitches for the next round in that one stitch. Then once I've done that, I'm going to work one of the SC and the V stitches. So I'm actually looking for, rather than these loops here of the next stitch, which would normally go under for a single crochet, I'm actually looking for, which is just underneath this V, which you'll see just here. It's just right underneath the loops, to the left hand side of those loops. So I'm going to actually part those loops with my hook, put my hook through from front to back. Now I'm going to pull the yarn through like we do for a normal single crochet, yarn over hook and pull the yarn through both loops. So now I've made a single crochet in the V of the stitch in that DC stitch from the previous round. So now moving on to the next stitch, which is again another 2DC together cluster stitch. So I'm making 3 lots of double crochet stitches in that stitch, all within the one stitch. And then in the next stitch, yet again, I'm going to part the V of the stitch like so. Set my hook from front to back, pull the yarn through, yarn over hook and pull the yarn through. Okay, so what I now want to do is continue to make those stitches around. So we basically have in each 2 lots of stitches 3 DC in the first stitch, and then that single crochet in the V of stitch in the next stitch. And we'll have 12 lots of those. You can see we're starting to form little petals that will then get bigger as the blanket gets bigger. So what I'm going to do is just continue around and make those 12 petals. Okay, so the only thing that we have left to do now is just simply to slip stitch into the top of the first double crochet, or the top of the 3 chain if that's the way that you commence the round. So I'm just going to put my hook through that first stitch and do a slip stitch to finish that round off. So now we've made 3 rounds. So at this point in time, it's probably easy enough, I think, to continue on, because I think the next round is probably even more simple, especially now that you know how to do the single crochet in the V of stitch. So in order to continue this round, I need to slip stitch into the next stitch. If I was joining a new colour, then I would join the yarn in a middle DC of any of those 3 DCs from the previous round. And now I'm just simply going to do 3 chain and then make 2 DCs. So 3 chain stands for the first DC, so you've essentially got 3 DCs in that first stitch. And then I'm going to do a single crochet in the V of stitch in the SCV from the previous round. So it makes it a little bit easier when you've already got the SCV to work into. So this is actually quite straightforward this round. So then I'm going to skip the next stitch, which is the first of the 3 DCs, and in the middle DC work 3 DCs. So I'm just working into the center of each petal, skip the next stitch, which is the last of those 3 DCs, and then work a single crochet in the V of the stitch in the next SCV from the previous round, like so. Just do one more, so skipping a stitch into the middle of the petal from the previous round. Now I'm working 3 DCs, skip a stitch, and then in that SCV from the previous round I'm going to make an SCV. So now what we're doing is just increasing the petals, but we've got maintaining the same stitch count. The next round will actually increase the stitch count, but at this point in time we're just maintaining the petal shape with no increase in stitch count. So I'll continue around and complete the rest of the 12 petals if you want to do so as well. So I've made it all the way around. All that remains to do now is just a slip stitch into the top of the first 3 chains, so right into the 3rd chain of the 3 chain, or if you've joined a new colour, either into the top of the 3 chain of the new colour or top of a standing DC, if that's the way that you've chosen to start that round. So I'm just going to slip stitch into that particular stitch, and then we've finished 1, 2, 3, 4 rounds, so we can move on to the 5th round.